Hi everyone, I'm Donna Stone and I'm the president of Project Bold Life. I'm here today with Eugenie Bondurant, and she is an actress, a singer, an acting coach. Should I go on and on?
Please
a model. And she also is a cancer survivor and just has an amazing story. Thank you so much for being here with me
Donna,
today.
thank you for inviting me.
This is going to be fun. So I know we've already been chit-chatting, and I'm like, we got to roll the camera. This is too much fun. So the list is long, so I'm only going to say a few, but you have been in so many, TV movies, big screen movies, Frasier, Star Trek, Fight Club, Hunger Games, my favorite.
Thank you. It was my favorite too,
indie
actually.
films, and you have done so much. What has inspired you to do all this?
What has inspired me to go into acting or do?
Just all the different roles. Like sometimes people do just big screens, sometimes they do just commercials, or sometimes, I feel like you've done it all.
Well, I have an interesting look in that I have a lot of, my cheekbones rather fly off the page. So what ends up happening is those roles morph into other roles. And if you're an actress and you're a working actress, you rarely say no. So if the offer is given, and it's a SAG check, it's a union check, absolutely. Even if
you are there?
Yes, I am there if it's a union project. So
you're talking about your cheekbones. You have a lot of the characters are really, I want to say, unique or bizarre.
Absolutely.
How do you then take those characters and get into that role or that character? Because I would think that would be much more difficult than your typical, you're playing a, 40-year-old mom of two. How do you play these crazy, bizarre characters?
Well, it's interesting that you say that because many actors get pigeonholed. They don't mean to be pigeonholed, it's just that their look puts them in that character. And so you do get the mother next door, you get the girl next door. They are very soft and sweet, and they're going to, bake cookies for the family that lives next door, and they're going to the bake sale and blah, blah, blah. I get the roles that I'm going to be the woman next door, but I'm going to put cyanide in your cookies. So, and I've grown to enjoy that. It actually started when I was, that whole unusual character, or people looking at me in a different way, started when, many, many years ago, after I graduated from college and I was modeling up in New York. And I don't know if you want to hear the story, but
I do.
Okay. Well, I was up in New York, and I was a working model, and that means that you would get booked for a big show one day, or the collections one day, and then the next day you're doing this teeny, teeny show down in the East Village. And so I was doing this teeny, teeny show down in the East Village for this designer. Nasty Habits was the name of it. Not anything nasty, it was crazy. There was a crazy name of the designer. So I do the show, and at the end of the show is the bride, right? That's what I always say. It's the bride at the end of a designer show. And I'm dressed all in black, and it's pretty, I'm covered from my wrist all the way up to my high neck, all the way down to the floor. I've got these very strange shoes on that are heelless, but they're very high, where all the supporters in the front of the shoe. Yeah. And it kind of reminds you of a Cher dress, where remember back in the day, Cher would wear these really. So I do the show, and all these people are in the audience, and they get up and they start pounding on the runway and grabbing my dress. And I'm thinking, woo, the more they did it, the more I thought, yeah, I love this. So I leave the next day, or 2 days later, I go to my friends down in the East Village, tiny little design team, and I said, should we tell her? I said, what do you want to tell me? Well, all of our friends called us up and said, it was so cool that you put a transvestite in the show. And I thought, oh my gosh, I love that.
Oh my goodness.
That's great. That's just opened up a whole new category for me. So that was the start of this unusual body type, unusual look. And
see, this shows just how strong you are, because a lot of women would be upset by that. And I love that you just took that and said, okay, this is me, and now look at all these roles I can play and how unique I can be, and I am unique. I love that.
Absolutely. It happened time and time again. I did a show by the name of Arliss. I don't know if you're a sports woman, so Arliss was the art of the sports agent. And I beat out actual transvestites for the role
the
of
role.
playing a transvestite. That
Even
was,
though you're
I was
a
a man
transvestite.
that was dressed as a woman that was playing a man that was a
Oh my
woman.
goodness.
Yeah. Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, it happened again and again and again and again.
So
It's
how
been fun.
how did you go though from, okay, so being a model on the runway of New York, and I read somewhere Paris, and you know, doing whether it's small shows, sometimes big shows,
Yeah,
other
yeah.
times, to then deciding you wanted to be an actress, or did someone approach you after they saw you on the runway, or how did that happen?
Well, what ended up happening is I was dating someone. You know, it's always, we make crazy decisions. But my view is sometimes those decisions, even though they end up, we can look at them as negative, they really create a positive outlook, positive result in our life.
Right.
And so my journey has always been an interesting, when I look back, I think, oh, that was interesting. No, I'm glad I made that decision. I tried to make the best decisions at the time, given the circumstances.
Right.
So in this case, I was dating a gentleman in New York, and he moved. I was in Paris working, and he moved to LA, and he said, come and visit me. And I happened to say, well, sarcastically, send me a plane ticket. And he did. So I ended up going to Los Angeles. My sister lives there, so that was convenient. And I ended up getting with Ford in LA, and then that turned things around, and booking my first commercial. And I actually fell into that business.
Right.
And bookings started coming my way, and then I realized I think I better get some sort of training.
Yeah.
And then I started teaching. So
I would say maybe you didn't fall into it like you said. It was just all meant to be, right? I mean,
so.
I think
Yeah.
things happen for a reason,
They
and so
happen
there
for
was
a
that
reason.
progression. So yeah, so you went from, I mean, acting, and now you are coaching as well,
Yes.
and you teach.
Yes.
What
Yeah.
is how is that? What's the difference between actually acting and teaching? I would think teaching is more difficult, but I don't know.
I don't know. You know, I feel like I've got my 10,000 hours in teaching. So I've been teaching for that long. I love teaching. I love acting. I love being part of it because I see myself through their eyes, and I hope that I can give them tidbits, my students tidbits, that will not only encourage them in their performance, but also encourage them in their life,
Right.
and give them confidence in an unusual or different setting. So that's my goal, is confidence building, and giving them choices. And if they choose whatever choice that they make,
Right.
then they feel good that they've
Yeah.
made that choice. And it's been fun. It's been a really fun journey. I've met so many interesting people.
Oh, I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sure. Well, I told you earlier, I have a 10-year-old daughter, and I love when you just said it gives them confidence, because, I mean, I'd never done any acting or anything, but I don't think I would, because I'd be too shy to do it. And she is not shy at
Right.
all, and I see when she gets up on stage at school and does these plays, and it just, you can see, like, it really brings out the best
yeah.
of her, and she gets so confident, and so that must be really fun to see with your students.
Well, yes, and as we were talking, your daughter is at that critical stage where, you know, she could go into that shy
Yeah.
personality, but you've encouraged her, and that's part of it too.
Yeah.
Is we also, this is a little sideline, I coach kids and I coach adults as well. I coach them privately and I have classes. And so the thing is, with those kids, there's so many opportunities now that didn't exist when I was growing up.
So true.
And there are music coaches and camps
Yeah.
and musical theater camps and theater camps and filmmaking camps and all these things that are fun. I want to do as an adult. I want to go back and rewind and go, wait, I want to do this.
Yeah.
So
No, very true. You were
great.
just talking about some camps you're doing recently, and I'm
Yeah.
like, what? Are they for adults? They
I
sound
know.
like so
I
much
wanna
fun.
do
you
that,
know?
right?
Yeah.
You should do that.
Oh, well, no, not me. My daughter. My daughter should do it. So I want to ask you, so on some of these characters, and I want to talk specifically about Hunger Games,
Yes.
Mockingjay Part 2, so I'm a Hunger Games fan. You know, Tigris, did I say it
Yes.
right? That
Yes,
was the character.
absolutely.
And I am just in awe of the makeup, right? And
Yes.
of the transformation that you made. And I mean, it was shocking to me and amazing. What was that process like, not only for you in the role transforming yourself and your mind, but like the makeup process you had to go through?
that was an incredible journey. It really was. And what an opportunity to be cast in that role.
Yeah.
I hope that you feel how I feel, because bar none, and amazing.
Yeah.
So V. Neal and Glenn Hetrick were the design team
Okay.
behind the looks of the Hunger Game.
Yeah.
And they
Spectacular.
collaborated together and created my character along with me and the director and et cetera, et cetera. So there was this dynamic collaboration. One of the interesting things about that, the first time I met with Glenn Hetrick, he was sitting opposite me. And one thing leads to another. And he looks at me, aside from the fact that there were other coincidences that he and I shared that I didn't even realize under those circumstances, but he looked at me, and this is the first time I've ever had someone ask me this. So what are your ideas on this character? I almost fell off the chair and I was thinking,
they have it planned already. They wouldn't be asking you, and that's amazing. I love that.
I mean, I've developed characters. I did a film by the name of Space Truckers with Dennis Hopper and Debbie Mazar and Stephen Dorff. And Stuart Gordon directed that film. And I was basically, I had all these, the whole design team working around me. I had very little say-so on what they were designing. Okay. So much so that, you know, I said, you need to put a zipper in this outfit or somehow so that, you know, I can, no, you can stay in this costume. This is what they said. You stay in this costume for 12 hours, it's fine.
Oh my goodness.
What? Are you kidding me?
So you go from that with no say to now all of a sudden
which
having...
was outstanding, absolutely outstanding. What an incredible design team.
So
really,
when you
really
were
incredible.
sitting in the chair and getting, like, how long did it take for them to transform you from you to that character?
Oh, just, you know, a little 6 hours.
I'm not a big makeup person, so I try to put it on as quick as possible in the morning, so I can't even imagine,
so
you know, 6 hours.
Some of your viewers will have had this happen, but I've had this happen several times. Number one, I've had prosthetic work done on my face, so I'm used to that. Yeah. But one of the first things, it was very interesting because this was the conversation between Glenn and I, and this first conversation, he said, have you ever had a body cast done? Well, not only have I had face cast, which this is what he was talking about, the body cast, the bust cast really, but they call them a body cast. But I've had a full body cast done, standing there for, you know, 2 hours in a cast like this.
What was this for?
That was for Space Truckers.
Okay.
And it was crazy. I mean, you see these pictures of me and I'm, so at any rate, so I said, yeah, several of them, you know, commercials and films and blah, blah, blah. He goes, well, which one? I said, Space Truckers, he says. I worked on Space Truckers.
Oh my gosh.
I did the square pegs. I thought, oh my gosh, we've worked together.
Small world,
small
right?
World.
We are just,
I'm living in Florida.
It's a small
and
world.
now I'm making this connection back again. It just all full circle.
Yep, I love that. That's how life works sometimes. It's so interesting.
Yes.
So I read somewhere, so tell me if it was right or not, but that your career really didn't take off until after your battle with cancer. Can you talk to me about that a little bit?
Absolutely. So I graduated from college in corporate finance, and I thought I was going to go get a job in finance. Okay, so I went home to New Orleans, my hometown, and I found a job actually leasing office space, and I thought, well, I think this is good until I, you know, find my job. I ended up within 2 years becoming weak and ill. I wasn't able to walk or run or skip or do any things that normal human behavior, you know. And I went to a series of doctors, and those doctors didn't, you know, couldn't diagnose me.
Right.
Yeah. So finally, a friend of mine, and it was depressing. I mean, I'm thin. Yeah. I was thin back then. I wasn't as thin as I am now, but I was thin, and I started dropping weight, shedding weight. Goodness. And so a friend of mine said, I think you should go to my psychiatrist. Well, I'd never been to a psychiatrist. I've never been to a psychologist at that point.
Right.
And I was scared to death, and I said, what is my mother going to say? Oh, heaven forbid. So she said, yes, I'm setting up the appointment, and the psychologist said, well, I don't think you're anorexic. And I thought, what?
Yeah,
who thought I was anorexic?
Not. Yeah, of course I'm not,
So he said, well, there are people out there that, I mean, that's the concern.
So was this why your friend maybe sent you there?
I think so.
Oh, no.
And you see, thankfully for her, my friend
she was
Ruth,
there to
she was
help
there,
you,
and she helped me, and she opened that door. It's because of her, that's what happened. And he ended up getting me back to the doctor who ended up diagnosed me, and immediately I was diagnosed. So having cancer actually made me look at my life differently. So the bottom line is, I'm undergoing chemo. I am 6 months in. I have no hair. I'm wearing wigs. I would wear, you know, at that point I'd quit my job because I couldn't even sit in a chair.
Right.
So as my husband says, you lose, 30 pounds and you have no hair, so the fashion industry goes, oh my gosh, you should be a model.
Oh, no.
So I was modeling, and someone spotted me on the street and said, you need to be up in New York doing this.
Oh my goodness, and that's how it all started.
That's how it started.
That's so interesting to me.
And I felt like
your battle all over. You're good.
That was many hundreds of years ago. I mean, I still go in and get checkups, but it's not very often. It was an interesting perspective. My perspective on life changed. The things that I held that I thought were important, actually, my perspective on those things are not important. Life is important. Being generous and kind to other people, that is what's important.
I always think when big life changes happen, whether it's cancer or something else for people, and then they kind of realize that, right? Like what's important with life. I wish there was a way for everybody else who was fortunate enough to maybe not have to go through something like that could still realize that there are things in life that are not that important that you should not stress about, and there are things in life that are important that we should spend our time doing. But like you said, it's difficult unless you go through, I think, that something big that you fear that, life could be over, so now I need to appreciate it.
It didn't, to make those, the thought of, I think I'm going to move up to New York with not knowing anyone. What else could go wrong? Okay. Could I hop on a plane? I could. What is stopping me? Could I hop on a plane or a train or a bus or a whatever, the mode of transportation? Could I go home? Absolutely. My mother would welcome me with open arms.
See, you have such a good outlook. Like, I love, everything we talk about, you're just so positive. So how do you stay positive in the acting world, right? Because there are ebbs and flows, right? I mean, sometimes you get a good part, sometimes nothing is in the pipeline at all. Like, how do you go about dealing with that?
It's funny you say that, because I tell this to my students as well. We definitely, in that industry, there are highs and lows. You get to a certain age or a certain look, and you're either no longer considered for a certain category of roles. Now, when I left Los Angeles, I was in that category. I had made great relationships with casting directors. I was not only going in for auditions, but I would be just direct booked, and that was lovely.
Right.
But at a certain point, when you reach a certain age, or at least it used to be in Hollywood, that doesn't happen anymore. Those casting directors know, I've been working with her for the past 10, 12, 15 years, 20 years. She's really not in the category, even though she looks in the category. So my work slowed. And timing is everything in this world, I think. I ended up meeting a man who later became my husband, and we moved to Tampa. So what did I do when that work slowed, and what do I tell my students? Is you need to get involved in other forms of the art, because there's that other side, there's that creative side of your brain that's just begging for attention. And that's what I did.
But you have something else you love then?
Yes. I took voice lessons. He plays the piano and we sing together, and he said, Eugenie, go, I want you to sing with me. So I ended up taking voice lessons, hated my voice for the first 2 years, and then accepted it and loved it and loved doing that. I got involved in radio theater, doing voiceovers. Teaching, of course, continued, and I continued with that path. So those things, which are my passion, that artistic side of my passion, and then the finance side, that business side, your side, that side of you, needed to be nurtured as well. So it's a little scary when you don't get those auditions anymore, or you don't get requested, or you leave a market. I left a market that was comfortable for me, and I came here, and I'm so glad I did. It was the best thing I could have ever done.
And now you have something else also that you're passionate about, right? Besides acting. What would you tell? So whether it's your students or just some people that are out there that want to break in and be actors or actresses, what would if you had one piece of advice for them if they're struggling?
If they're struggling, keep at it. Yeah, absolutely keep at it. Because eventually things will sink in. Eventually you're going to get cast. It took me, when I started auditioning, I booked my first commercial without even realizing what I was doing. That it just had, they were looking for my type. I walked in, I had just come from the runways in Paris. They said they wanted a model. I looked at them like they had lost their mind. Why don't you just go ahead and book me? So I booked that first union commercial that way.
Yeah.
But after that, I was sent on, I don't know, audition after audition after audition, and I didn't book anything.
Right.
And many times people get discouraged. And
Absolutely.
This is a business where you can't get discouraged. You can secretly, but that's why you need those other things to build you up. You need to stay in an acting class.
Yeah.
You need to meet people. You need to go to film festivals. You need to, work on those other sides of the business that are potentially not just financially rewarding, but emotionally rewarding.
Right.
You may not make any money. There are times where I didn't make any money in a year.
Right.
I made money teaching, but I didn't financially.
Right.
It wasn't rewarding.
Right.
So.
Right. But as long as you love what you're doing, it sounds like, and
and it's not all. Rose petals are not. You're not always, dancing in the rose petals, but still. It's fun. You're filling your passion.
Right. Oh, I love that. So, we are talking constantly about, at Project Bold Life, living a bold life. So what does it mean to you? Because I know you're doing it. What does it mean to you to live a bold life? How would you describe that?
Doing things that ordinarily would be scary.
Okay.
So I audition. As an actress, I audition. I audition in front of casting directors. I do what's called self-tape. I go to callbacks. They are scary.
Really?
They're scary. I have to be honest. Some people love them and they're comfortable.
Yeah.
And I tell my students all the time, I feel for you. I understand what you're feeling. But keep on doing it. It gets easier.
Yeah.
And more comfortable.
Yeah.
Not easier necessarily, but more comfortable.
But more comfortable.
So that to me is living a bold life. Doing the things that are a little scary or very scary and going in front and just putting the blinders on.
Yeah.
I did something for a friend of mine, playwright Sheila Cowley, local playwright, lives not far from here, and she said, would you do this? And I thought, I'm going in front of people to perform. Not that I have never gone in front of people before to perform. What was wrong with that? But it was very scary and intimidating, and it was so much fun.
Yeah. I always say, so when somebody asks me to do something, whether it's a speaking engagement or whatever it may be, if I'm scared, then I know in my head that it's going to push me forward.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So I can do wonderful things. I can get asked to speak, to a small group, and I'm not scared. Whatever. It's good. It's still good to do, but I know it's not pushing me forward. If I get asked to do something and I notice that, I'm really scared to do this, I better do it because it's going to catapult me forward. So I love that you said that, that's part of living a bold life. Just if you're scared, it's okay, but just go out there and do it. This whole conversation has been just absolutely amazing to me. I love it. My cheeks hurt from smiling so much. You are amazing. Thank you so much for doing this today with me. Eugenie, so nice to meet you.
Well, it's a pleasure being here, and pleasure meeting you too.
Thank you.
It was very lovely. Thank you. Thank you all.